Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to a recap of night number 20 for Big Brother season 26. All right, such a crazy Monday that we had. So, yesterday, I'd mentioned before, was it going to ramp up even more? Was it going to settle down a little bit? Well, it actually settled down a little bit. Picture Christmas Day. All the presents have been opened. Everyone's had the fancy meals. Everyone's had so much fun. The relatives have all been over. And then the next day, you just take a breath. You relax. You try to take it easy. A little bit. That's what happened last night. Now, not that we didn't still have conversations, but we had a lot of people trying to come together and just hang out and chill a little bit. And I was glad to see that. We had people calling each other out and doing all kinds of stuff on Monday. But remember, these are just regular people who are playing a game that forces them to be very cutthroat at times. No one likes doing that. Well, most people don't like doing that. And so I think for a lot of the people, it was a chance for them inside the house to catch their breath, to reconnect with people. Gave us a chance as well. But let's talk about what did happen, because there were certainly some conversations. First of all, as a little bit of a refresher, Kenny and Tucker are on the block. The third nominee is to be decided. I expect after tonight's episode, they'll open up the voting. It'll last for 23 hours or so. So get ready for a rush of people on online social media saying who you should vote for, who you shouldn't vote for. Go out there and vote. It's going to be fun. We won't find out, I don't think, until the live episode tomorrow who that third person is. But right now, Kenny and Tucker on the block. We'll still have BBAI Arena. One of these three will get removed, and then we'll have the eviction tomorrow. And then we're going to have a very interesting HOH. I don't think anyone's throwing HOHs this week. We will see. I'll say that. We'll talk about Quinn and his power here in a little bit. We shall see, but we'll have the HOH tomorrow as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit in the spirit of reconnecting and chilling out a little bit. We'll start the live feeds with Tucker in the backyard trying to rescue a bee that was in the yard. He gave it a little water. Do bees drink water or just pollen? I don't know. He gave the bee a little water, tried to breathe a little life into it as well. I think Kimo would point out that, hey, it's already missing one antenna. Yeah, so I'm not sure how well the bee did, but Tucker trying to do his best to bring a little more empathy and compassion into the world. So yeah, trying to save a bee. After that, we did have talk about a little game talk. We had Quinn talking to the cameras, giving one of his little game narratives. Apparently, he talked to Brooklyn a little bit earlier in the day about potentially forming a final two, because he mentions in this talk that, hey, if I could finalize something with Brooklyn for a final two, that would be fantastic. Quinn's still making deals. Quinn's still putting his alliances together. So he talked to Brooklyn about that. He's talking about Tucker. He said, Tucker is still my favorite house guest in this house. He's hilarious. He's fun. He said, yeah, we went at it with each other, but he's still my favorite. I still like Tucker in there. I'm glad they can keep the personal and the game separated at this point. So he's talking about Tucker. He's thinking that he and Tucker are chill now. He's saying, for us to call each other out, and now, everything's okay, somewhat. Again, it's one thing to say it. Doesn't mean they still aren't targeting each other and all of that. But he's saying for the most part, they're chill now. He's talking, though, about someone who maybe isn't quite so chill. He's talking about Rubina and how mad Rubina still is at Quinn for him not revealing to her that he had this secret power. So he understands that relationship still has a lot of work to do. He's hoping that they can be friends after the show, even if as part of the show she's disappointed, upset with him. Insert your word, but he's hoping after the show that he'd love to be friends with her, and he hopes that doesn't affect that part as well. Quinn is talking about a fight that he had with Angela. I don't think we as live feeders saw that fight. I think it cut away, but apparently it was a pretty heated argument. He's saying they aren't fighting anymore, but at the time she had really upset him, and he probably shouldn't have yelled at her the way he did, but she just got him ramped up, and it happened, and not even really sure exactly what all the background of this fight was. I know at one point, apparently he had said something that that she thought he had said stuff that went beyond the game that could affect her in the real world. So anyway, they had the fight. He's feeling a little bad, a little upset that he yelled at her, but it is what it is. He calls himself not a lost puppy, but a turbulent leopard seal. I'm not sure exactly where that analogy was going in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, apparently Quinn's spirit animal is a leopard seal. Uh, is a leopard seal a good thing? I don't know a lot about leopard seals, but he calls himself a leopard seal. He's hoping that Cam and Joseph aren't lying to him, that he would like to continue to work with these two guys. And yeah, that's the thing. When you have a big blow up like you did on Monday, suddenly everyone in that house has to start reevaluating every person that they're working with. Can I really trust them? Is it gameplay? I think all of these Big Brother players got introduced to the game, the true game of Big Brother on Monday. It wasn't all just let's be friends and all of that. And I'll trust you if you trust me. Now there's a lot more to it. And I think everyone is reevaluating all of their relationships, including Quinn wondering about Cam and Joseph and just hoping that he truly can work with them going forward. Quinn is talking about the fact that he called out Kenny, and I think it was about Kenny knowing the plan to backdoor Quinn and all that, to pull Angela off the block. He said he called out Kenny just kind of just for the sake of doing it. Apparently, later Kenny called him out on it, said, why'd you do that? And that's so out of character for you, Quinn. And Quinn apparently came back and said, no, not really. I'm slime. I'm a scumbag. That's who I am. I hope he's talking in context of gameplay, but yeah, Kenny called him out saying that really wasn't the way he would think Quinn would work, and Quinn saying, "Yeah, I'm here to play the game, and that's part of it, and so be it." He's talking about winning the HOH, and wants to see where Leah is in the game to decide whether to keep her or not. He's starting to think of his targets. We've got a lot of conversations. People starting to think not short term, but longer term. Who do we want to take to jury with us? It's going to potentially be voting on whether we win all that money and everything else. I think a lot of people, as much as we had these blowups, I still think most people are thinking Angela and Kenny and potentially Mackenzie, maybe Tucker, depending on what side you're on. People feel like the pre-jury is still somewhat set. It's more about this jury phase and what's going to happen with that. And so Quinn's thinking a little bit about, if I win HOH, I can control everything next week. They can't hijack my HOH because I have the power. And so then suddenly you're getting pretty close to jury phase. So let's talk about that. All right, we've got Rubina and Chemo talking a little bit. Rubina is asking about Chemo and T-Core and saying, are y'all still good? Remember that T-Core was upset with Chemo, that Chemo knew about Quinn's power and didn't tell her. So she's just wondering if Chemo and T-Core are still okay. And Chemo saying, yeah, I think so. She's asking Chemo about Quinn, and Chemo saying, we just really haven't talked. It was just this whole thing just, I don't know if we're good, not good. We just really haven't talked since any of it happened. Remember that most of the house found out about Quinn's power kind of through Chemo, because Chemo had confirmed to Tucker that Quinn had the power. And so again, he's telling Rubina saying, I don't know. Hey, we just, we aren't talking at this point in time. Well, we'll see a little bit later. This is a bit of a plan to try to distance Chemo from Quinn. And so Chemo's playing his role to some degree at this point when he tells Rubina this. All right, we've got a big dinner, as you can see back here. Leah and MJ made dinner for everyone. I think they had hamburgers and macaroni and cheese, and they went around talking about what they liked about each other. Well, maybe it was the night before. I don't know. Anyway, they had a big kumbaya dinner together, which was nice to see. Just a moment removed from the game and enjoy each other's company. All right, we've got Cam and Chemo talking. Chemo just as Chemo sometimes tends to do, feeling a little down in the dumps yesterday. I think Chemo's probably an empathetic person who probably, when you see people fighting, gets even more stressed out. And I think it's affected Chemo a little bit. Down in the dumps last night. And at one point, Tucker had come up and given them a hug and talked about when they got out of the house, so he's going to go hang with Chemo and all of that, and trying to cheer him up. And Tucker gave Chemo a hug, and Chemo actually had some tears in his eyes as he hugged Tucker. And so Tucker tried to cheer him out there. Chemo's telling Cam, saying, I feel sometimes a little bit left out, the schoolyard kid that didn't get picked. And he's saying, and then Tucker gave a talk about going after Quinn because he's such a competitor, and I know that no one looks at me as any kind of competitor in this house. Cam saying, "No, I don't think that's what Tucker meant. Yeah, everyone loves you in here, Kimo. There's a reason you're here. There's plenty of competitions that you're going to win. You're going to dominate. So you're good. There's a reason that you're here, that you were picked to be in this game, and just you need to cheer yourself up." So he's trying to give Kimo a little bit of a pep talk as well. All right, we've got Quinn and Chelsea and Cedric all talking. Quinn is saying that as long as Tucker or Kenny or Mackenzie don't win, I think something about the HOH, as long as they don't win, then they should be good no matter what. He's saying he'll definitely use the power. They'll get out Kenny or Tucker. Now, here's the thing. Even if Tucker or Kenny or MJ won HOH, Quinn still controls it. It's just a matter of, it makes it a lot cleaner if one of them doesn't win, because if one of them wins, then that person at least gets immunity. I don't think, and I guess I need to go check the power. I don't think when Quinn hijacks the HOH, he can't put up whoever's the HOH. They're still the HOH. They're still immune. So he's basically saying if Tucker or Kenny or Mackenzie, if one of them wins HOH, I can't put them up. And therefore, there's only 2 slots, and there's someone else that has to be filled, and just makes it a lot more complicated. But if none of those 3 win, there's your 3 nominees for next week. So that's what Quinn's perfect scenario is. He's saying, yes, I'll definitely use the power of Chelsea and Cedric to try to get out Kenny or Tucker. Mackenzie is not his big target, although he's aware that Mackenzie's planning some stuff against Quinn. But he's thinking Kenny or Tucker need to be the first ones to go. He's also saying that Tucker can, and this was an interesting thought. I've talked on here before that you really don't have a true backdoor opportunity because of this BBAI arena. That normally you put someone up as a veto renom, so they never have a chance to protect or to fight to save themselves, to pull themselves off the block. Well, with this extra competition of BBAI arena, you can renom someone at the veto ceremony and they still have a chance to pull themselves off. So we don't have a true backdoor potential. Tucker is saying that's kind of true, but he's also saying, but if we put Tucker up every week, whether he goes home or not, as long as Tucker's here, if we get Tucker as one of those 3 nominees, Tucker basically, assuming he wins every BBAI arena, which he thinks he's going to do, he said Tucker could basically plug that hole. Tucker can take over that slot. So we could backdoor someone in one of the other 2 nominee positions, and they'd have a chance to pull themselves off the block. But if they can't beat Tucker, then they don't really. So yeah, an interesting thought that he's basically saying we can use Tucker, whether Tucker agrees to be used or not. We could use Tucker by putting him up every week and fill that spot in. So that's something to think about. All right. We had the feeds down for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Heard a little bit later there was an earthquake, like a 5.3 earthquake in Bakersfield, which is north of Burbank, by an hour and a half or so drive. Feeds are down for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Not sure it had anything at all to do with the earthquake. They had an earthquake, a couple of them while I was in the house during my season. It got our attention. We were all back by the back door underneath the beams. The backyard was locked down for us, so we couldn't go out back, but hiding under tables everywhere else and watch it. It's not a real house. It's a studio. You wonder sometimes just how sturdy some of the stuff in there is. But yeah, they had an earthquake. Maybe could feel it, maybe not. We never heard them talking about it, so possibly not. But for whatever reason, the feeds were down for a couple hours. When the feeds came back, everyone is in the backyard. They're sitting around the hammock. All right, while we're thinking of it, they're losing the yard this morning. As of 5 or 6 this morning, the backyard's going to be shut down, getting ready for the HOH and the BBAI arena competition tomorrow night. So this was their last chance to enjoy the backyard for a week. So everyone's in the backyard, sitting around the hammock area. Chelsea is asking everyone, some dangerous games taking place back there. Chelsea asked everyone to give their top 2 names of who they think we as the viewers would pick to go on the block for Thursday. Tell me who you think the 2 people are most likely to go on the block. Forcing people to throw out names. A couple of people are like, no, everyone has to play. Everyone has to play. Throw out 2 names. Chelsea basically forcing people to say who they think maybe the viewers dislike most in this game so far. Again, very dangerous to do this. Well, most people got around it by saying themselves and then throwing out some other name. I think Cedric, for example, said something like, well, Rubina's already mentioned twice. Seems like she's a majority, so I'm going to say Rubina. Cedric always wants to pin it on the majority, right? So most people said themselves, and then they threw out someone else that was either someone they knew was a friend of theirs that wasn't going to be offended, or someone that's probably not likely to get picked. So they did have that, but yeah, it's a little interesting watching people trying to scramble and figure out what names they were going to mention at this point in time. All right, it does seem like by the time it's all said and done, Quinn maybe is the most popular pick amongst the house guests of who they think could go up, and then followed probably by either Leah or Rubina. Does that, if you're one of those three, does that make you feel a little uncomfortable? It wouldn't me, I think. All right, we had that. After that, we had lots of games of Mafia. The game, I don't know if most of y'all know what Mafia is. If not, I'm sure Wikipedia has some entry. It's a fun game. A dangerous game to play in a Big Brother house, though. They played Mafia. I think they played, I don't know, four rounds. Tucker and Chemo and Cam and Cedric each were the host, the narrator at one point. They all did a great job. Normally, when you get games like this, it's kind of my nap time. Catch up on my sleep while I can type deal. No, I watch these. It was a lot of fun. They really took on the roles and had a lot of fun doing it. So playing a lot of Mafia throughout the evening. Another dangerous game. Later, after it breaks up, Cedric was pointing out that the Mafia is a great way to figure out who is good at lying, because there's a lot of lying involved in Mafia. He and T-Core are both saying that they just don't have a face for lying. Well, maybe not, but and Cedric says, I just don't have a face for lying. T-Core, and neither do I. And Cedric said, or maybe I do, and I just intentionally was playing this game badly so you don't think I have a face for lying. So they're aware that there's some, again, nothing is ever innocent in the game of Big Brother. So a lot of people probably paying attention to who is playing Mafia well and how they were playing and things like that. Quinn joins in on the conversation. He says, hey, it's a social strategy game, just like Big Brother. It's just a little bit different, a different format, but it's the people watching, people paying attention. Quinn is thinking that Tucker picked Quinn. I can't remember if he picked him to be the assassin or what. Anyway, he's thinking that Tucker picked him just to see what Quinn's tells were when Quinn was telling a lie. So they're laughing about that. Quinn is talking about, again, how hurt Rubina is for him not telling her about his power. He's saying, it's just that I didn't tell her about my power, and she's just so upset. So he's mentioning that. He's talking to, and again, this is Cedric and T-Core. He's saying, hopefully I kind of created some bad situations by not telling everyone about the power. He's saying, hopefully by me now using power next week and providing safety for all the team, I could kind of make up for that and be okay. Because I feel like now I'm kind of the weak spot in the group. So he's certainly thinking about that. Cedric is talking about how at this point they still have the collective. That's who their loyalty seems to be primarily with, is the collective. He's talking about, as long as we stick together, the collective plus one should be able to make it to jury, which would be fantastic. And he says it should be simple. There's nothing simple. Don't you know that by now, Cedric? But Cedric saying it should be simple to get the collective plus one to jury. Quinn saying, yeah, for that plus one, well, let's bring in Angela, make her the plus one. Gets a couple of looks, and yeah, he's not serious. I don't think he's serious. Nah, he's not serious. I don't know that anyone wants to be in the jury house with Angela. I think outside the game, Angela would be a lot of fun. Would be just fine to stay in the jury house with and all of that. But within the game, a little stressful. But outside the game, it'd be fine. But yeah, they're not thinking they really want Angela to be part of their jury. That's probably the main thing. Forget getting along in the house and all of that. Quinn's thinking, I don't want Angela voting on who gets the $750,000 this year. All right, we've got Rubina and Quinn talking about Quinn sleepwalking, sleep talking. There was the night before, Quinn was in the pedal room sleeping, which already was a little bit of an issue. People saying, did he just want to sleep in here with us girls because he was here together? Intel and all that. So people already a little sketchy that he'd been in there. Well, Quinn starts talking in his sleep, saying, I got to choose, I got to protect. Just saying it's stressed out. This game gets to you. I had a few Big Brother dreams in the house and outside the house. It gets on your mental psyche. He's having nightmares that turn into sleep talking. At one point, he actually sleepwalks a little bit, gets up, stands over Rubina's bed, maybe touches her wrist or arm a little bit. She kind of jerks awake. He ends up sleeping on the floor, a little area next to her bed, and it just, one of those weird little episodes. And so they're talking about that. Rubina saying, I hope I didn't make you feel weird or anything. Apparently, Quinn had said he was going to sleep in the have not room tonight. And she's wanting to make sure that he doesn't feel that she somehow called him out and, accused him of anything. And he said, no, it's none of that. I'm fine. She said, it's not that big a deal. He said, no, he said, I just don't like not being in control of my body. And if I go sleep in a have not room where there's no one else there, I feel like I can get a better night's sleep and it's just going to work better for me. So they're trying to talk that. He's trying to explain why he doesn't want to be in the room with them. And she's wanting to make sure that he's not feeling upset at the way that she mentioned what had happened to him and all of that. So at least Rubina and Quinn are talking a little bit. All right, we've got Quinn and Chemo and T-Core talking to each other after the rest of the group is broken up. Most of them have gotten in bed pretty early, pretty early for Big Brother, called it a night. But they're wondering again who America puts up and how that could impact everything. They're hoping that this blowout that happened on Monday helps hide the fact that Chemo and Quinn are still working together, that this group of three is still tight. Remember that Rubina said, hey, Chemo, how are you? And Quinn, and he said, we haven't talked and all that. Well, here they are saying, well, hopefully this helps people not think that Quinn and Chemo are too tight with each other, that we're kind of distant. Let's just keep that going a little bit. So they're hoping they can continue to work together and people aren't going to notice. Yes, but when the three of you are sitting out by the hammock in the middle of the night while everyone else is in bed, people may get more suspicious. I'm amazed that people aren't a little bit more secretive about the way they're having their little group meetings and all that. Seems like as long as they think people can't hear them, it's okay if they see them hanging out together, which isn't necessarily the case. But they're saying, yeah, I think this actually helped people not think that we're too close to each other. They're saying that Tucker doesn't know about the collective. Now, there's a funny thing. Apparently, at some point, maybe during this house meeting yesterday, the day before, Angela had mentioned the term collective, and Quinn and everyone else said they're like, their eyes kind of open wide that Angela mentions the collective. Angela knows the name collective, but she doesn't think it's real. She thinks it was a fake alliance that they had tried to sell to her while she was HOH. She doesn't understand that the collective is real and is still in existence. And so as a result, they don't, even though she knows about it, they don't think that she's told Tucker anything about it. They don't think that Tucker knows about the collective, which they think is a good thing. They're talking about the fact that there are other alliances likely forming right now that they have to be aware of. Chemo is saying that Brooklyn had told him that MJ had told Brooklyn that MJ was trying to put something together. And Quinn is saying, well, that's not good because she wants to come after me. So I know how that's going to work out. But they are aware that other people are trying to put stuff back together and form different little groups. Quinn is saying that MJ McKenzie had asked earlier who Quinn was working with. And he says, yeah, I can't believe she wanted me to tell her who all I was working with just so she could then go after them and target them in case she wins HOH next week. He said, I wasn't going to tell her. I'm just amazed that she wanted to know. And he said, sure enough, she apparently went up just like an hour later and was talking to, I think, Chelsea or Brooklyn, I can't remember which one, saying that she wanted to get me out. So obviously she was just trying to figure out who my connections were. So he's laughing about that a little bit. They're wondering if Tucker and Mackenzie even like each other at this point in time, or is it just a working relationship? They're not really sure. Quinn's talking a little bit more about his conversation with Kenny earlier, where Kenny had said, that's out of character for you. And he's just rehashing some of that. They're talking about if Tucker wins HOH, that Quinn could control it. And he would then he mentions putting up Leah or Rubina at this point, which he would hate. then Tucker can't compete in the next HOH. I guess he's saying, I guess it's what I said earlier. If Tucker was to win HOH, then he's got to put up some people that maybe aren't his top targets, and he doesn't want to go after anyone in the collective, so he's limited. If Tucker wins HOH, assume Kenny is gone, he would probably still put up Mackenzie, put up Angela, and then he's got one more spot to fill, which would be either Leah or Rabina. And he says, yeah, I'd hate doing that, but at least if Tucker wins HOH next week, he can't compete the following week. So it gives us a chance to then go after Tucker that following week. Tucker's in a little bit of trouble unless he can get enough people on his side that he can win some eviction votes on down the road. They're all agreeing that Tucker's move, looking back, was kind of dumb, a little bit of an overplay, and they just don't see why he wanted to go so hard against Quinn at this point in time. Chemo is talking a little bit about the collective. All kumbaya, as long as the collective sticks together, we're good. Chemo's a little bit worried with the collective in that talking about an inner alliance, which I think he's already aware of, but he didn't know the name of the inner alliance until Quinn mentions the Pentagon. And Kim was like, oh, the Pentagon? And Quinn said, oh, yeah, just wipe that from your memory. I shouldn't have actually said the name, but yes, the Pentagon is the inner group that's part of the collective. Well, Chemo's worried about that. He's saying that he knows they're at the bottom. They're not part of this inner group, so obviously they got to worry that, yeah, they're in the collective for now. Yes, maybe they make it to jury, but are they the first ones picked off after that point? You got to be aware about the layers in these alliances. So he's talking about that. Quinn is saying, yeah, there is this inner group of 5. He said, but I really feel like when we get to that point, I can get Brooklyn to flip with me. We're number 4 and 5 in that Pentagon. So it should be easier to get her to flip. And with her and myself and y'all, we should, and then get Joseph as well. And that should be enough that we would control the collective, even if they think they have control through the Pentagon. It could be fun somewhere just past the jury phase as you start seeing implosion of this big alliance. So he's saying it should be good. He said, I think Brooklyn would flip with us as long as she doesn't think the 3 of us are working together. So we need to keep that on the down low. Quinn is suggesting that they meet with Joseph, that they let Joseph know about this inner group, the Pentagon, as well, because if they do that, Joseph's going to realize that he's not part of the inner group. He's going to be basically forced to work with the rest who aren't part of this inner group in the collective. And so they should be able to reel in Joseph as long as they let him know about the Pentagon's existence. Quinn is saying that on down the road, potentially they could bring Leah in if they need an extra number as well. But he's wanting to maybe wait because she's so close to Mackenzie and he doesn't want to reveal too much. So, a little later when we need to, we'll get Leah and make her part of the group to make sure we can get everyone else out. T-Core is thanking Quinn for continuing to correct people who can't pronounce T-Core's name. It's not that hard. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. If not, please let me know. But I think I am. And now I question everything after Monday. But she's saying thank you. And Quinn's saying, yeah, I'll die on that rock. I'll die on that hill. It's not, everyone should be pronouncing it correctly at this point in time. And she's thanking him for that. She's talking about the difficulty of playing this game, saying it's not just the competitions, it's that I'm an empathetic person and the emotions that are taking place in this game. When someone cries on my shoulder, are they really crying or are they just playing the game? And yeah, it's a tough game, T-Core. I understand completely. But she's talking about that. Eventually, Cedric joins this group. He tried to join, immediately got called to the DR. Did that, came back a little bit later. So Cedric joins the group. He thinks that America's Pick doesn't really matter that much because it's going to be Kenny or Tucker going home no matter what. One of them's going to be on the block no matter what Thursday night, and they should be the person going home. So he's saying it doesn't really matter. It may not matter Thursday night, but in terms of people's perception, it's going to matter a huge amount. If you're the person that's picked by America to go on the block, is that not going to make you a little bit nervous about the way you're playing the game, the way you're being perceived by the viewing public? Is it not going to make you maybe reevaluate, maybe change the way you play if you think that you're being seen as the villain in this house? And if you're not the person who's picked, but you see XYZ who has been picked, if it's someone you're working closely with, are you going to worry that maybe you're being seen in a bad light? The votes that are made by America, the people in this house are so desperate for the tiniest shred of information that something as big as who America wants to go on the block is huge. It's going to affect a lot of people's perceptions and the way they play the game going forward. So, yes, I agree, Cedric. It may not matter in terms of Thursday's eviction vote. The person who's picked should be safe. I would expect, unless it's Quinn, and that could be interesting. But I think even at that, the person should be safe. It may not matter, but in the long scheme of things, it does matter who America picks on this thing. So get out there and vote. All right. So Cedric's talking about that. He's also saying that if Kenny wins BB Arena, which means his third person and Tucker on the block, the collective should be able to protect whoever that person is and send Tucker out the door. We'll have to look at the votes and see. It's going to be chaotic since we're not going to know until right before the BBAI Arena who that third person is. We'll see if they've got the votes or not. But Cedric feeling like that third person's safe no matter what. There's talk about, again, Angela thinking the collective was fake. I mentioned that she doesn't believe it's real. It's real, Angela, and it still exists for a few more weeks anyway. Probably not much longer than that, but a few more weeks. All right, we've got T-Core and Chemo talking each other. They're in the bathroom. Remember they had this big talk with Quinn and Cedric and, we've got to work together and all that. Well, now we've got T-Core and Chemo in the bathroom whispering. They're so good at whispering. It was hard to hear sometimes, but T-Core is saying that Tucker is playing through intimidation. That's his game plan, and she's not going to work with someone that forces her to do things through intimidation. She just does not want to work with Tucker. They're both worried about the fact that they're at the bottom of this collective. Yeah, Quinn tried to explain how it'll work, but all they know is they're still at the bottom of this thing. They're both talking about the fact that Quinn said, well, eventually maybe we'll bring in Leah as an extra number if we need it. And they're both thinking, no, we want Rabina before we want Leah. T-Core is saying a lot of Quinn's plans that he is vocalizing certainly benefit him, but not necessarily T-Core and Chemo either. So she said a couple times last night, she didn't come into the house to be led. She wants to play the game. She says the collective, I didn't choose to join. I was just told that I'd been added as a member. She said, that's not really the way I want to play the game. And she's kind of carrying that over to Quinn and some of his plans, saying that may benefit him. Doesn't mean it benefits us. So don't assume that's what's going to happen. And Chemo is assuming, or is agreeing with that as well. We've got Quinn talking about whether him, they'd come back out after a while, I think, or I don't remember. Anyway, Quinn's talking about whether him razzing Tucker during a competition would frazzle Tucker. I think he's talking to Cedric at this point, saying, if I do a little harassing talk to a Tucker, he used different words, but a little harassing talk to Tucker, would that make him more focused, or could it maybe frustrate him a little bit and get him a little shaken and maybe allow him not to compete as much? And Cedric saying, it may focus him even more. Quinn saying, I don't mind doing it. I don't, everyone always cheers for everyone in this when they're competing. He said, I don't mind calling him out and kind of making fun of him and doing what I can to rattle him, but I don't want to do it if it's just going to make him even more focused on winning the thing. So they're talking about that. Cedric is saying that Tucker has that he knows kind of what Tucker's, or let's see, Tucker is personal, that he's comp beast. He's saying that he knows that Tucker thinks that he's this comp beast, that he's so positive that he can win everything. But Cedric's saying when it really comes down to it, he said, I think I can beat Tucker at most competitions. He's not going to beat me. I'm fully capable of beating him. I'm 21, Tucker's 30. I should be able to handle Tucker. So let Tucker think that he's just this dominant comp beast. I'm not afraid of going up against Tucker. So he's mentioning that. Cedric is saying that he has figured out Tucker's strategy. And y'all think about this, because he may be onto something. He says, I think Tucker's strategy has been to win the first few comps, volunteer even so that he gets a chance to play in these first few comps, win enough competitions that he gets a reputation in the house of being just an absolute comp beast that no one wants to go up against. And then at that point, he can intimidate the HOH. He can intimidate people not to put him on the block, because then he'll just win and come after them as targets. And so again, it's getting back to what T-Core said a little bit, that his strategy, win the first few competitions and then intimidate people into not putting him up on down the road. Could be. That's kind of interesting thought to think about. All right. They do think his social game is really good. And Quinn says, he's really good at detecting liars too. He can read people and And all that, man, maybe Tucker really was part of the CIA psychological profiling studies or whatever that he said he had mastered at some point. But yeah, they're saying he's got a good social game. He's good at picking up when people are telling him lies, and he is good at comps. But Cedric's not worried about it, and they think they've got him figured out in terms of his strategy. And T-Core saying, I will not be intimidated. All right, we got T-Core and Cedric still up. The others called it quits finally. T-Core and Cedric still up out in the backyard on a hammock. T-Core is Cedric sitting on a beanbag. They're talking about numbers, who they can count on. Chelsea seems to be the first person they both bring up as someone they really feel comfortable working with. T-Core is saying that she didn't come into this game to be a flip-flopper. I think I mentioned that she right now is just doing a lot of observing and gathering intel. Yeah, she does a lot of that. There are times even during these conversations where I kind of forgot T-Core was there because she was on a hammock under a blanket and not saying a lot, but T-Core is always listening. So she's saying that she's certainly observing everything. Cedric is saying that he feels like he can certainly trust T-Core. She says, well, I know I can trust you. He can trust T-Core, Chelsea. He says, probably Quinn. He says, well, yeah, I guess Quinn more than other people, but, you know, kind of careful with Quinn. But T-Core and Chelsea and Quinn, I feel like I could trust. Sort of Cam, sort of Brooklyn, and sort of Chemo as well. So Cedric not as high on Chemo. I think he says something like, it's not that I don't trust Chemo. I just haven't talked as much game with him. I trust him. I just haven't had the deep conversations with him. He's thinking that all of these twists that we've seen, the Ainsley and the extra nomination and all of that, he thinks it could potentially end week 4 when these superpowers or advantage powers expire. And he thinks that then week 5 or maybe week 6, you could have a double eviction, send 2 people out the door. Seems a little early to me, but perhaps so. We'll keep an eye on it and see. So he thinks powers and twist, everything are getting ready to go away. A double eviction, get into jury, and then just play a straight up game from that point on. I think we got a few more twists and turns along the way. All right, they're talking about have-nots. He's thinking that they haven't had a have-not decided yet by competitions. It could be Thursday night that they have a competition where the first 4 people out maybe are have-nots, first 3 people, something like that. And T-Core says, well, does that mean it's an endurance competition on Thursday? And he's like, I don't know. How great would that be if you've got, I don't know, Tucker and Quinn and a few different other people, Cedric on a wall competition or hanging on to ropes and vines or something, endurance. Let's see who really, really wants to win this HOH. Cedric says later, I'm not throwing any more competition. Never, ever again. I'm going for all of them from this point on. Yeah, I'd love to see an endurance competition on Thursday. All right. Quinn has gone up to the have-not room. I thought he's going to have a long camera conversation up there. Not really. He just said, yeah, hopefully I lock myself into the vault up here and won't sleepwalk or talk. I'll get a decent night's sleep. So he calls it an early night, early for Quinn. Is in the have-not room by himself sleeping. T-Core at this point is alone, backyard and hammock, saying that she just doesn't want to be led by any man in this game, that she was raised by 2 women, that she just doesn't want a man deciding the way she's going to play this game. She wants to make it possible for herself or another woman to win this season. And she says, or Chemo. I'd be okay with Chemo winning. But other than Chemo, me or another woman, I want to make sure that they have a chance to win this game. How can I do that? And then she gets very quiet, contemplating and figuring out her strategies going forward. All right. Meanwhile, we've got Cedric with the camera talk. Where was he? In the bathroom, I think. No, he's up in the HOH room. He's still HOH. Cedric up in the HOH doing a camera talk, kind of rehashing some stuff. He's hoping Quinn does use his power next week. He says at that point we can start picking off the other side. He's saying that he hopes that Tucker goes home on Thursday just for his own personal game because Tucker called him out and all that. He says, but if not, if Tucker doesn't go home, it's still okay because Kenny should go home. He said, I kind of hate that Kenny goes home, but he's on the other side. The other side's numbers will still dwindle if it's Kenny instead of Tucker. So that's okay. He says, if Tucker not only survives, then wins HOH, well, at least then he can't play HOH the following week, and I can, and I'll be able to target Tucker that week as well. So he feels like he's in a good position right now with Quinn having the power and Tucker feeling a little desperate at this point in time. Cedric mentions that he's through throwing comps. Apparently he threw the veto competition that Tucker won. He says, look at that. I threw that veto because I was told by a few people, I think Chelsea had said, don't win that veto, but lay low at this point. He says, I threw that veto. Tucker wins it. Now look at everything that happened as a result. I'm not throwing any more competitions going forward. Good. I want everyone fighting for every single one of these. So he's through throwing comps. He's thinking that he made the best game move that he could possibly have made, even though it kind of blew up, even though it wasn't the way he wanted his week to go. He feels like if he hadn't done what he did, he would have lost a lot of his connections and alliances. So he's feeling better about the choices that he made now that he's kind of seeing the end game and what's going to result from him. And there you have it, guys. Lights out. Lights out about 5 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. These last few stragglers finally call it an evening. And there you have it. So again, some important conversations to be had, but a lot of get together and let's reconnect with each other after the big blow ups. And I was glad to see it. Now I don't know what'll happen today. We've got a down day before and they're all locked inside. We've got a down day before tomorrow gets crazy with evictions and BBAI arenas and all of that. We'll see what happens. It may be another chill day, people getting ready. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of plannings of what if and what should we do if so-and-so goes up versus so-and-so and how do you vote? Be a lot of those discussions. So I'll be back tomorrow morning to give you updates on all of that. Until then, guys, y'all have a fantastic, what is that, Tuesday? Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. It was a long night. Y'all have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow to talk to you about what happened overnight. Until then, guys, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.